Alright, so this lesson will be on Make Me a Pallet on Your Floor. It won't necessarily be on a particular individual's rendition. I think for the most part it'll be a combination of Willie Brown's, John Hurt's, and some of my own preferences. So one of those preferences of mine is to play this in Vestapol Open-D tuning versus what John Hurt used, which was standard tuning, and I'm not exactly sure what Willie Brown used. So if you're used to playing this in standard tuning, maybe give this whole Vestapol thing a try. You might actually like it. I find it a lot easier to play some of the riffs in Vestapol versus standard, so perhaps that's something that you might prefer as well. Okay, so what I'll do is kind of go through it once. It's been a long time since I've actually played the song. I just kind of got the idea to finally do a lesson on it, so hopefully I can kind of get through it. So you kind of heard a little bit of it there. So the way that you'll kind of want to start this, way of playing it will just be on the 5th fret. Just make a bar with your first finger, and the first double stop that you'll play will be involving the bottom string and the G string. Now throughout this song you'll be playing an alternating bass, mostly between the bottom string and the D string. So if you kind of just get used to that and slowly fit it into the entire progression, then you'll be halfway there. Now on the treble side, we're kind of just improvising on the B string. So now that's just on the 7th fret of the B string. Now, okay, I'll slow down for a second and just start with the treble side only. G string on that 5th fret bar. Now, 7th fret of the B string, and then just back to the bar. Then you can kind of throw in a bend, and then here you'll just be open. Now if you kind of combine that with the bar and the alternating bass, now what's really important is knowing where to place the notes so that you can either have them on the off beats and kind of fill in the gaps between the bass line, or right on the beats. Now here there are some notes that occupy both, on the beat and off the beat. Now you'll notice the notes on the G string there were anticipated or off the beat. Personal choice for you to decide where you want to place those notes. Alright, now one thing that I think this is kind of a Mississippi John Hurt thing. He'll do this. Now that's just around this chord shape, which is the 8th fret of the G string, 9th fret of the B string, 7th fret of the top string. That's what the treble side thing is. It's sass. Alright, so then it goes. Vestapol is that you have all these bass notes that you can rely on because it's an open tuning, yet the top two strings are tuned just like standard tuning, so you can kind of fiddle around with the same freedom as standard tuning while having the security of, or the ease of just having, you know, that alternating bass as you do in open tuning, or, you know, it's a lot. I treat it very similarly to playing drop D tuning or something like that, because they're, you know, those concepts parallel there. So then, you know, I can throw in stuff like this, you know, riffs like that, or you can go. All right, so you know. So that kind of stuff is it was easier for me, you know, because I don't have the same technical proficiency as like, I think it's Etta Baker. He does a tutorial on Pallet On the Floor where he just goes crazy in standard tuning, and I can't even dream of doing something like that. So this kind of allows me to do it, and maybe it'll allow you to do it a little more too. Okay, so we've dealt with that first section of the song. Now we're going to go to chord, which conveniently is just a bar on the 4th fret. Now, the nice thing about having all the strings fretted here is that you can add, you know, a lot of percussive rhythms to it by controlling whether to fret the notes or to dampen the notes by releasing the strings from the fret, but still having contact with your bar finger. You can add stuff like that kind of staccato. Now, with this particular chord, one thing that you can kind of play around with will be the 7th fret of the B string. Adds a lot of tension and a lot of flavor to the actual sound. All right, and again, I'm just kind of playing around on those top strings, just finding what notes I like. You know, you can figure out what you prefer and stuff, but for the most part, if you kind of just Travis pick those top strings, just, you know, the default kind of stuff, it'll work out as it will for pretty much most of this song. Now, then you move up to the 4 chord, where you play the same kind of bass line as you do with the rest of the song, and also the same treble part. But just to add some variation, I don't bend that note. If I bend it in the beginning part of the progression, I won't bend it here. And now this is this part where I go. It's kind of more drawing from the Willie Brown version. Alright, so then it just that kind of thing just goes again, just Travis picking there. Now we've encountered this chord shape, you know, not too long ago, so same 3 chord shape. Now here, this chord shape is just 7th fret of the G and B strings, and then 5th fret of the top E string. And the bass line here, just to make it fit harmonically, I just go A string to G string. And then here, just back to the normal E, D bass line. And then just making that G string open, B string at the 5th fret, and top E string at the 4th fret. So, all together. And then the Willie Brown lick here. Now that lick goes bend at the 7th fret of the B string, small half step bend, then you grab the 4th fret of the top string, then hammer into the 2nd fret of the B string, top string open. So that whole turnaround, or ending section. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of things there. I hope it was, for the most part, clear. Now, going back to the whole preferences thing, when I mentioned having the ability to control the duration of each note, or each string ringing, that really applies to almost all the chord shapes involved. For instance, with this lick, that wasn't the greatest example. I can't really pull tone right now. You can't quite do that if you play it in standard tuning, because that C chord that you'll be playing, or F chord, F bar, you know, that kind of chord, there will be some open strings involved. You can't quite pull at the strings or grab the sound in the same way, or I find I have less control. So that's probably the main reason why I've chosen to kind of keep it in Vestapol tuning. And yeah, I hope that some of the chord shapes or ways to pick the notes has been somewhat, perhaps, enlightening in some way to make it all worth it. But yeah, regardless, thanks for watching, and I hope this was a decent lesson, at least. Alright, cool.